Welcome back, everybody. It's getting there. It's getting there. Oh my God! It's how can I put this? There's a lot of awful work, which I mean awful work is grinding fiberglass. That's just terrible. I don't mind welding. It's just grinding the fiberglass. That's the most miserable thing because you itch all over. But that's beside the point. What we're going to do is grind more fiberglass because we are now on the rally car. We need to get this panel bonded. I have very little time left to have the curing temperatures overnight of 70 degrees to make sure the panel bond itself is as strong as I can possibly get. So what I have to do is I have to make sure this quarter is pretty much fit, you know, except I do have to do some how can I put this, finishing touches, because like the back is out just a little bit. I mean, there's a whole bunch of small things I have to do because it'll affect this rocker, this bottom portion of the quarter to the rocker down here. And also I have to basically really hog out and bend this rocker to make the transition from the quarter to the rocker to the front fender and actually make it look right. That's going to be the real problem. It's not going to look like the originals. I'm going to show you the originals. Believe it or not, this quarter right here is more like the original than the way I'm going to present it, you know, in the final product. But it's going to be much more seamless from the quarter to the rocker in my eye. It's just not going to be original. That's the only thing. All right, let me take a couple more swigs of this so I'll move the camera around and I'm going to show you with the book and on here what I mean. All right, it's just the way it is. All right, yeah, let me just get going. Here we are at the rocker and here we are at the quarter. All right, well, we got to transition from the quarter to the rocker and transition the rocker, continue down onto the front fender. This is going to be the problem. What we have here is the same thing that was on the Sport. The two bottom pieces, or the two top pieces, or two top sections of this rocker are bent in like that. Do the same thing, but we're going to do it in, how can I put this, more exaggerated form, and it's going to be a twisting form in order to make this fit. At least that's what I think is going to happen. I have a good idea that's what it's going to be, but in my mind, but you know, I've had things in my mind that just didn't work out. We're going to do that again. All right, also, we have to transition from the quarter, because you can see right here, this right here is on the line, which follows this line right here. If I sit there and put this down, where this is supposed to be flat right here at a 90, or basically 90 degrees off of this, the transition is really, really nasty. And basically you just don't want to sit there and take a clump of body filler and just go like that, because there's a good chance it'll break. But on the rally cars, I think that's what they did. This right here is the Audi Quattro book by Alan Henry. And let's first go to this picture right here. This right here is Bloomquist's, what is it? Yeah, 1983 Scottish Rally, right there. And if you take a look at the rocker transitions to the rear quarter, and you can see it's a single vent car, not a double vent like an E2, but right there, it looks like they just added a glob of body filler just to throw it in and just sprayed it over. But you have to remember, back in the day, if you had to get to a rally, just throw it in there. Okay, it's legal. You know, and then if you take a look at the next picture, this is from the same thing, the Blomquist, but this is the circuit. Yeah, it's a Circuit of Ireland one right there. What it is that if you take a look at that transition, the rocker itself is a little bit more flat. I mean, sorry, the quarter is a little bit more flat, but the rocker pulls out. I'm going to put an arrow on it. You can see it's like on a half of ellipse, you know, as it goes over and goes far beyond the door. So it transitions into the rear quarter. Now, what I want to do to make this thing look correct for me, this is personal preference, is this picture right here. That picture is from Nicola's 83,000 Lakes car. Now, whether or not, see, I think Audi Sport UK built Blomquist car, and I think the factory built the Nicola's car. I'm not really sure. I'm not privy to that information, but that's what I'm going with it. But it should all be the same, you know, because they have to follow the same FIA homologation regs. But if you take a look right here, you can see that has double vents, which was pointed out to me was an A2, which is absolutely correct. The rockers look more like they are Q, at least in this picture, and it looks like it's a much more seamless transition from the rear quarter to the front. I can't tell, but it looks like the rocker twists all the way in, and that's what I wanted to do with this. What it is this thing is all taco, just like the Sport Quattro. They're, you know, it's like the rocker's supposed to be like this, but they're like that. So what did I do on the other one? I hogged out the ridge, and I basically broke them and made it like a pure rectangle in fiberglass inside with spacers and put them on the Sport, and they work great. This one is going to be even more so. What I'm going to do is I'm going to really hog out the end thing till it's just about to break, or actually it'll probably break. Same thing with the bottom. I am going to pull this out and set this up on this line right here. And then twist the rocker all the way down so it matches the front fender, so it has a nice easy transition. This will still be perpendicular right here. That's how much, you know, we're probably going to take out 35 degrees of downward motion in the top part of the rocker in order to make it fit flat or perpendicular to the side plate. But I think the transition will work out much, much better. And once it's in there and I can get the clecos in, I'll probably fiberglass it, have everything set up, and then put clecos in it so the fiberglass, and flip this thing up, you know, put this on its axis and have this thing harden up with the fiberglass inside of it in order for it to set correctly and have the proper transition. But the first thing I have to do is pull this rocker off and make sure this thing is fitting exactly, because I think this rear portion right here of the quarter has to come in. If this rear portion comes in, this section right here comes out. It's like on a pivoting point, you know? And if that thing comes out, I want it, if I'm going to go to all the work to make this thing transition correctly, I want to make sure this is an exact location. I got a little different way I'm going to do the actual internal lip of this. I thought about it, you know, from doing the Sport, but I didn't act on it, so I'm going to try another this way. If it works, I'll show you. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to show you because I don't want to lead you down the garden path. Okay, all right, I'm going to pull this quarter off. I'm going to try and get the transition or the wheel arch all set up, and then we'll work and go from there so we can get to this this rocker panel, to the rear quarter section done. And this is going to be the hardest thing. It's going to be the most miserable thing because it's grinding fiberglass. But all right, you know what? As you can see, I'm stalling. So, all right, let me just pull this thing off and let's just get going. Well, the first one goes in. Wow, this is tight. You know what? I think this is a better way to do it. Have your outer lip. Weld your outer lip to the inner part of the wheel well right here. Then take this off. Use a spare piece of fiberglass that you've cut off. I think I cut this off of the rockers, or could have been off of this, but I think it was off of the rockers. Put it in there and build the inner lip around it, because it seemed to be, it's much easier than the way I did it over there. Other than that, the clearances are really, really tight down the bottom because the quarters go inward on both sides, on 1, 2, 3 sides they go inward. And it's, you know, it's sort of like, how can I put this? Like taking an inverted clamshell off, you know? This thing hooks on it, but once they're in there, they're locked in. Yeah, I'm not sure inverted clamshell was a good idea, or a good analogy. But hey, you know, I'm trying. Other than that, I might loosen up the clearances a little bit on this, and then worry about it, but I'm really happy with the way this thing came out. I have just enough so I can bend it over to lock it in. This cleat will fit right in, so that means I would assume the rest of them all are going to fit right in. I mean, I'm looking at the body lines are right on. Pretty happy. Let's go do the other quarter, and then we can get on to figuring out exactly how we're going to do the rockers. We're here at the left quarter. I did this over on the right quarter, and I want to explain to you, I don't think I explained over there, I want to explain to you what I'm doing. When I put this quarter in and I made this lip, I believe this was the first lip I did, I actually made the lip a little bit deeper over on the Sport Quattro, and I should have made it on this. But it's like anything, the first thing you do is the first thing you do. What it is you have this right here. This is the correct body line, and it clears this quarter. So I have full amount of fiberglass, quarter bonding to the metal chassis. If I go over here, follow the same line down, it hits. So what I need to do is what I'm going to do, this is my decision. You can do whatever you like, but I'm going to recut this and re-weld it and push it in. There's two reasons for that. First thing, if I'm going to all this trouble to make this thing fit as flush as possible, you know what? I'll spend an extra couple hours and do this. I have no problem with it. And the weld and all that stuff, I have, that's no problem. Second thing is, people will either say, why don't you just use filler or grind down the fiberglass to make it fit, because it's not too much. Well, first thing with filler, that's a double-edged sword. When you put filler on there, the more filler you have, the more apt it is to crack. I'm gonna have to use some over there for the fuel door plate, the filler plate, but it's going to be a fiberglass mesh that's going to go in there, and it should be relatively stable, but that's beside the point. But even still, putting more filler in here, just more apt to crack. And other people might say, well, why don't you just grind it down to make it flush? Well, if I do that, I'm weakening the structure of the actual fender. I want as much structure as I can, because if you cut this thing down and you have a real weak point down here, because you have to remember it, they weren't controlled for the external or the back portion of it. There's a good chance of a crack where it's not panel bonded, because you have the panel bond here, and this is where the panel and the steel goes, and right here, if this is thin right there, and the flexibility, it'll crack, boom, and then you have to redo it. So I'm going to try and keep this as the same thickness all the way around, so I'm going to push this in. That's just me. You can do whatever you like. I might be overly conscious of it, but if I'm spending all this time, you know what the hell? I might as well do it. All right, let me get my new cutting wheel, and I'm going to cut this down and re-weld it, and then we'll get on with doing everything. Well, that's kind of what it takes to fix your screw up. All right, helpful safety tip. Make sure your edge for your quarter is a little bit further in. More than you like, you can always build it up. It's a lot easier. All right, I'm going to put the quarter back on. Let's see if we can fix the rocker. Check this out. Right now, this would be ideal position right here, right there, for the front fender. Back here, there is a natural curve, which I thought I was going to have to do, and actually I think that's what they first intended you to do. Check out this. You take a look at this, right here. This is really wide, and it gets progressively less width to right here. So what we have to do is cut or just dig out this internal portion. It's going to have to be almost basically snap broken, and then put it onto the rocker panel or put it onto the car and make it conform to fit. And then I think I'm going to have to do it in a couple of stages, which means I'm going to have to cut the first part, bend it over, and then do the second part. But I kind of want to do both sides of it, so it conforms and looks correct for the front and the rear. That's the problem. Yeah, I also have to figure out what I'm going to do here because of this little section that I have here that I put in. I got to take that out, and I'm going to use something different because the rocker does extend out longer or more, and I need more contact or surface area with the panel bond. The big thing was I never worked with panel bond, and I thought it acted like like silicone, like you put on bathtubs or whatever. It doesn't. It's completely different. So it needs surface area to bond to, not surface area like with a hole to do a mechanical grip to it. At least that's what it appears to be. All right, let me open the door. Let me show you what I'm going to do here for the sill plate for the rocker, and then I got to make my decision. I got to cut it on one side or cut it both sides, conform it, drill it in, and then basically put screws in one side. Clicos in the other, and then make it fit and let it sit overnight after I put the fiberglass in it. Yeah, I just hope it doesn't stick stick to the metal so I can't get it off. I just won't clean the metal. Here's where the rocker is going to be. Remember this section right here? This was from the tire rack, the side supports of the tire racks that I had just kicking around. And I welded it underneath here, and I thought it was going to be good, but like I said before, the panel bond acts a lot different than like silicone, so it won't mechanically lock, and you need surface area instead of mechanical locking, basically where the thing would squeeze through and lock itself. All right, well, I'm going to take this right off because take a look at this. This is a rocker. If we have it right here, and I slice this down, this is only going to go to about where this section is right here. And I need a lot more surface area for it to bond to. First things, I have to make a plate from here to here. So these things are basically cliched together after I break them and have it form to the metal. And then I need a plate for out here. What I have is this. This is the tire supports for the tire rack. This, you know, just as thick as this, but it's one solid piece. It gives me tons of surface area, and it's another probably 19 mil or 3/4 of an inch larger. It should work pretty good. It's a long enough piece so I can go all the way down here, weld it inside. I think it'll work out pretty well, make it pretty stiff. Then I'm actually going to put another mount on this, you know, another couple of bars underneath here, weld it to the chassis to support this, just for stepping on the rock. All right, let me get my stuff back on so I can cut this off, clean this up, and set this thing up first, and then we can cut the rockers. Miserable. And and I can get my fiberglass and stuff ready so I can actually break them pretty much, put them on here, cleco them and screw them in there, set it to the door, and I think it's going to be okay. All right, let me get stuff back on so I can cut this out and get that stuff cleaned up so we can get going. All right, let me show you what I've done. See this piece of angle? You know, it's from the tire racks. It's really thick. Well, I had to cut a taper all the way down in order for the rocker to fit, because we're going from a really wide quarter on the rocker going down to the fender, and that's a taper itself. So that's the reason why I did that. I also notched the back. So when you put this thing in, it slides in. I haven't figured out exactly where the height is, but it slides in, it almost locks itself in. I think it's pretty good. What I gotta do with this is I gotta go to my other piece of angle that I'm gonna use for the other side and make a mirror image just to save me some time. That's pretty much it. And the same thing with this. This right here that I put on is from, right here. It's from the metal pallet. I cut out this section so it's basically a C-channel. And you're probably wondering why I wanted that, because the other plate over on the sport clutch was just a flat plate. Well, this transition is really rough, and we're trying to make, we're doing a lot of bending here, so I don't want this to be flexible. The transition over on the sport was really easy. You know, it was a nice, easy transition. This one's not. And this is really, how can I put this, really stressed and trying to have it being torqued over. I'm probably going to put screws in here, and might put screws on, you know, to take out these clecos. I'm not sure. Let's see how it holds it, you know, with a test run. But I got to weld this into here. First thing I do is I'm going to take this over for the other angle that I have to go for the other side, and for more of this stuff that I have from the metal pallet, I'm just going to copy or basically draw out what I need over there. And I'm just going to make a mirror image of this so it pretty much goes in and it looks the same over there as it does here. I'm trying to make them both equal. All right, it'll just save me a lot of time, so I'll just straight cut it, then I'll sand it. All right, let me, I'm just gonna do that one off camera, because I also have to hog out the rocker panel, and then I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna start tacking this thing in, and then see if the rocker will fold down with just using screws. And if it does, okay, that's when I'm gonna start fiberglassing the inside of it and setting it in, because I might only do one side, I'm not sure. Because if I do one side, I'm going to flip it up just to make sure the resin doesn't drip the opposite way. I want it to stay in the crack that I'm trying to fill. All right, yeah, so let me go do that, and I'll be right back to weld this up. Here's the transition. You know what? This is just a game of compromises. I have it set here. It actually looks pretty decent all the way down. The width from the rocker out from the door, the distance from this edge out is pretty equal all the way down. A little hair in, but not bad. I have three screws on the top plate. One right here, here, and here, holding it down. I have one screw in the side plate which locks it into the rear quarter. Now I have to pull it out like this to make it transition pretty decent. Now when I pull it out like this, right here, this line kind of matches up with the rocker, so I think I'm pretty good there. All right, I gotta go check the time, but if it's enough time, I'm gonna go do the other rocker off camera, and then I'm gonna put a piece of tape here, fiberglass, and web it. You know, put the webbing in there or the matting in there and fiberglass it, flip it over so the gravity holds it inside, let it cure overnight, and then the other side. Yeah, then I'll get on to guaranteeing fit with the front fender, but the front fender's pretty much done. All right. Awful lot of work to make things correct, you know? But you know what? I kind of like the way it looks. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. All right, let me go check the time, and if I have enough time, I'm going to hog out the rocker and swap the other one over there. I'm not going to show it because it's the same exact thing I did here. All right, yeah, let me just go to that. There you go. That right there is the angle from this angle to that angle for your transition from the rear quarter to the front wing or fender, whatever you want to call it. I'm really happy with it. I am. I mean, you sit there and you put it, it's like, okay, yeah, no, this feels good. I like this. And yeah, it was a little bit of a bitch pulling it off of this, but you know what? It's well worth it. What I got to do next, I got to clean up all of this stuff. I got to trim it all down, weld it all in, do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to do this to the other side at the end of the day today because the epoxy resin stinks so bad that you want to, if you let it sit overnight, and you know my barn is pretty airy, when you come down here in the next morning, there's no smell whatsoever. It's completely dry, no smell. So that's kind of what you want. So if you're going to do it at the end of the day. Let it sit overnight, come back and have no smell so you can continue working. But you know, I am pretty happy with the way this thing fits. I mean, it fits really nice. I don't know what else to say, but what I got to do is I got to get my garb on, and I got to start trimming up all of this and making it fit flush, and then go do the other side so I can get it ready to panel bond tonight. And I might put some supports down inside here. Not really sure yet what I'm going to do, but I'll come to that. I got to first clean up this, do that, and then figure out supports if I'm going to put them in. All right, let me get my stuff on and do it. did something off camera that I just forgot to film it. What it is, the quarters. Remember how I turned these rockers, I manipulated them to meet these quarters? What I didn't remember was these quarters, this bottom portion goes all the way down and fits flush here, and these things are now up, which are pretty much look like a rocker, you know, on the regular cars. So what I did was I took the grinder, just like I did with the rockers, I ground this all out, refiberglassed it, put the quarters all back on, and then I pushed it out like this so it's equal with both sides. And I did the upper top rocker also in the rear quarter. So this is equal right here and this is equal right there. What I gotta do is I gotta build supports into the side rocker panels so when they attach they're pretty stiff. Then I can build a top plate after everything is said and done. Yeah, I think I gotta countersink everything and then panel bond it. Pretty scary, because it'll be the last one. You know, the last Audi to panel bond. But hey, I'm trying. All right, but I want to let you know this is what I did to make them equal. So don't be afraid to cut it, because the more I cut them, the more things you have to cut them. All right, let me get my stuff back on, flip this thing over, pull everything off, and start working on the supports. All the Seikos are in. It's all stationary. When the panel bond is on, this is going to be pretty strong. The big thing is that it's all flat. So when I have a piece of metal covering all of this, you know, because it's going to be panel bonded also, it'll actually look halfway decent, and there'll be hopefully there'll be no gaps. All right, next thing is I got to go do the other side, and then I can get on to countersinking all the rivet faces. There it is. I cleaned everything with a flap wheel so I can get a pretty decent adhesion with the panel bond. And, well, no better time than the present. All right, let me show you over the toolbox what I got to do this. Here's all the stuff you're gonna have to be set up. Panel bond. Seeing how I know I'm gonna be using at least 3.5. I cut out 3. I got the half setting in the gun over there. Clamps, body hammers, screwdrivers, air blowers, stuff like this. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pop rivet guns to make sure, and I got all of my pop rivets. Just wanted to show you this is, and I also got my drill handy, and I got my cutter handy just in case I run into any problems, and gloves so you don't get that shit on your hands. All right, I'm gonna take all this stuff off, put that on time lapse to see if it actually works. Yeah, we're gonna do this up. Happy about that. It's the next day. Pretty happy with it. You know what? Sport Quattro's all bonded. All the panels, everything is flowing into each other. The Audi Rally Replica, pretty much same thing. Everything is, I am really happy with the way the lines came out, the way the rockers came out, the way everything feels. That panel bond is pretty amazing. I have to admit that. And how can I put this? It feels like steel. Because when you go around and tap it all the way around, there's like no discernible tone in between the steel and the fiberglass panel when it's next to each other, especially in the rear quarters. The rear quarters feel like they're steel. Same thing on the Sport. So, but do I have any other body work left? Well, it's only body protection I have left, not actual body work or body fabrication to this point. Is the inner wheel wells for both of these cars and the plates to cover the bottom of the rockers in the rear of the quarters on both cars. I just picked up the metal to do it. I'm not really concerned. See, the big thing was, as I really pushed, because you can keep going back and say, oh, you can make this mount better, and there's a point where you have to say, well, I got to do it because time is not on my side. And when I say time is not on my side, I keep looking on my weather reports for the weather and for the temperature overnight. Last night, maybe tonight and tomorrow is the last time I've seen anything, even because it really even doesn't reach 70 degrees overnight. It gets like 65 or 68, 67, and it continually goes down. Unlike when I did the Sport, it was at 72, 73, and then starts to go down. So I was under a real time constraint. That's the reason why I just said, you know what, I got to do it now, because if something happens, I don't have enough time during the next 2 days in order to make something happen that screws up. So it was all just in case. And you have to make that in your mind on how you're going to do this. But theoretically, the cars are done. I mean, I built the cars before. The cars have been built and disassembled, and now I got to put them back all together and make them work. And there's two big things I have to do to both these cars. First one, make them look pretty. It's going to be months of hand sanding and block sanding and grinding, and there's going to be a ton of that that I'm going to have to do to make these things presentable for when I have to paint them. And the other thing, and the most important thing, is make them work. Putting everything together, wiring up, make sure all the systems talk to each other, or not talk to each other, make sure all the systems work as designed. And also, I mean, the rally car is going to be really simple. It's direct connections. This is going to be a little bit more difficult because I want the actual trip computer to work. I want the cruise control to work. I want all that stuff to work. Well, maybe not the cruise control, because I probably won't put it in. That bellow and control system that works, I probably won't put that in. But at least the mileage and computer and all that stuff on the 5000 dashboard, I want to make work. And that just means it's going to be a little, that 5000, display should work with the 3D ECU to display everything there. But I got to figure that out, and at that point I'll figure it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's just the way it is. But everything else should work as a regular normal car. Right now I'm going to take some time off because I got to do some other stuff. And how can I put this? Yeah, that's about it. I mean, they're done. I mean, as in, major fabrication. They're done. They're together. They're one solid chassis. I could spray that one white and spray this one black, and probably on that YouTube camera that I have right here, the GoPro, it would probably look decent, but boy, it would look like shit if you actually looked at it. But hey, listen, it would be SEMA ready. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with the way they're coming out. Still got to do some other stuff, like do the underguards and do the inner wheel wells, because I got to seal up all this section right here and seal up the back and get that thing all squared away. Same thing, I've already sealed up this. Then I got to make both. I've already made the wheel wells for this, but I'm going to copy it over here. All that is just, it just takes a little time, and the panel bonding doesn't really need, as long as it's 50 degrees or above, I'm pretty happy with it, because there's really nothing structural intended for those. This is all structural, and I don't want it to move. I want it to give me the most amount of strength. Underbody protection, I'm not even up in the air whether or not I'm going to use panel bond or I'm going to use windshield weld, just for say rock absorption. When a rock comes up and hits it, panel bonds windshield weld for putting in windshields, moves back and forth, but it's pretty stiff. Now if that rock comes up, maybe it would flex and be better. I don't know. I got to really sit there in my mind and think about how it's going to work. But other than that, thanks for showing up. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Long ass road. So, but thanks for showing up. You can do this. Trust me, I'm just a hillbilly out here in New Hampshire mucking about with these things. This is all a first time thing for me, you know, for panel bonding and stuff like that. And the more I do it, the better it is. Yeah, thanks for showing up, and I really appreciate it. And you know what? I hope you have a great day. See you now. Bye.